Welcome to this month's free live webinar for Dharana Digital. And this month, we're focusing on the use of AI for customer and market research. Now, AI is great at generating content and coming up with ideas and summarizing large documents, but it also has really great techniques and a lot of power in data analysis, and its researching functionality as well now with things like agents and deep research have really helped us to be able to come up with ways to better understand the people who we are trying to connect with as business owners and just as people in general. So in this session, I'm going to take you through some core ways that you can use AI for this very purpose. As a researcher myself, it can take such a long time to gather data. Now, while I like AI, I still think there are some areas where people are really important and humans are really important in getting research done and collecting data. For example, right now I'm doing interviews for my new AI book. I don't ever want to hand that off to an AI tool to actually conduct research with other humans because I learned so much from sitting in on those sessions and just reading a transcript. It may not be even the same, and it may not even capture that same experience that I have human to human. There was a study that came out recently where I think they were using AI video avatars to interview people for research, and the researchers found that they didn't get quite the depth or rigor of the data that they were aiming for, and really that's no surprise. But in many parts of research, you can still use AI to some degree. If you're thinking about a research project, generally you have to recruit the participants, then you have to go out and collect the data. If it's, say, interviews or whatever the form may be, generally qualitative research, you then have to transcribe it and code it and then synthesize it as part of the research process. And, that these things are still important, but there are other ways now that you can either complement what you're doing to better understand your audiences. A lot of us don't have 6 to 12 weeks to gather that data. And for me, I've done now 26 interviews and I started those in January. We're now in nearly June. So it's taken me a long time to get that information. I haven't even started to analyze it yet. So in one afternoon, I'm hoping maybe 45 minutes in this session, I'm hoping to give you some steps to speed up that process, but still be that human involved. So in this session, what you'll leave with are some workflows, so some techniques that you can actually use straight away. I'm going to do 3 live demos, and I'll go to end to end with a case study of one of my actual clients right now. And when I get to that, I'll explain the background of what we're trying to do. And then you'll have some ideas of whether this will actually fit into your research, or you can use parts or different techniques within it that you can adapt to your own needs. The first one I find really amazing, and it's building a Google survey in just a few minutes. Now, I'm not sure if you've ever used Google to build a survey. It's a Google form, and generally you have to come up with the questions and then go in and then manually build the questions in the survey. And it can take a bit of time, particularly if you're not familiar with how Google Forms works. With this, what we're going to do is actually get the AI to draft the survey questions and then generate some code that we can then put into script.google.com, and it will actually build the survey for us. It will not take long at all. Let's go in there now and I've got a prompt here. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. So this is a prompt that I prepared earlier. Now you'll notice often now with prompts, what I will do is I will actually, if it's quite a complicated or comprehensive thing I want to build using the AI, I'll get the AI to help me with the prompt. I will tell it what I want to achieve and then work backwards from that. And then it can give me a prompt that has all those things in it. And this is really helpful too with things like images or video and things where there's so many different parts to it that you may forget. Using the AI to help you prompt is a really great time-saving tool as well, as long as you know what you want it to achieve by the end of it. For this, the prompt is, I'm building a survey to understand how mid-career communication professionals in Australia are currently using AI tools in their work. I'm talking here about the gaps I want to identify between adoption and confidence, And the overall research question is, where do communication practitioners feel most and least confident using AI? I want it to be 8 questions, a Likert scale, so 5-point. Now, when you know more about surveys, you can be very specific about what you want it to give to you as well, but it's just come up with this for this demonstration. I want each question numbered and the question text, the question type, and the list. I will just use ChatGPT for this one, and I'll just paste that prompt in. And so now it's come up with the questions really quickly. Now, of course, you need to read these and make sure that they're right and really apply to what you want to do. But it's created these, and this is just clearly for the demonstration. It's done what I've asked it to do. Then there is another little prompt we'll put in after that, because what we want it to do now that it's got the questions is to generate that script to create the Google form. So in here, I just tell it to generate the Google Apps script code that will create this survey as a Google form. And so I'll copy that and then paste it in at the end of where the questions are, just in the same conversation. And so this looks like, what does this even mean? But what you'll do is you'll copy the response. I'll just double check it hasn't given me anything else. No, I'll copy the response. Now we'll go into scripts.google.com. Let me bring up another scripts.google.com. It's going in there now. We want a new project. And then, so we've saved it to the drive and then we've gone run. And so it takes a little second. Review permissions. So we'll say yes. Okay, continue. It takes a second. And then what's going to happen is we'll go over to Google and it should be there. Let me just go over to my Google Drive. I'll just get in the right section first. There it is. Let me show you. This is it. If we click on, that's the survey. So you can see it's just built it so quickly. It's all in there. So you don't have to put this all together manually, is the trick there. To do this, what you need to do is to go into ChatGPT and then you get it to do the survey questions. Then you ask it to create a script for the website. Where are we? For scripts.google.com. And then you copy that and put it into script.google.com, press run, and then it just does it through. Clearly you need a Google account for it to work. But yeah, there you go. Like, that is so much faster than any survey I've ever built. There's that there. I can supply you with the prompts and everything for this as well if you want to have a go yourself. That's the first one I wanted to show you. Now, surveys are great in terms of the type of research method, but there are many other ways that you can gather research and use AI as well. As it says here, the harder questions are who and why. And there's been a lot of talk in the AI field, particularly in the marketing space, around this term called synthetic audiences. Now, a synthetic audience, people refer to it in many different ways, but essentially it's when you want to test something or see what an audience is likely to respond to, but using AI to come up and be like that audience based on previous studies that you've done. So here it says it's a population of AI-generated respondents. It is grounded in real data. So it's come from previous studies. It's almost like you've done that groundwork to see how people will respond, and then you're using them to almost predict what they would respond if asked other questions. It's validated against real human benchmarks, and it's almost like a research panel. For some of the studies I've worked on, I've, say, bought a research panel from a market research company, and they make sure they're not AI generated, but they're real people in a particular area. For example, for my first AI book, I wanted strategic communicators from the UK, Australia, and the US. And so I bought, I think, 400 people or 400 survey responses, not people, 400 survey responses from people in that particular demographic and psychographic, and they answered my survey just so it was in that right niche area that I was looking for. But this is very similar, but instead it's using AI to take on the characteristics of those people. So it's not just a single voice, but then it's multiple things. That's becoming more and more talked about because it means that we could possibly do our surveys and test our research and our messages with a huge audience if it's synthetic rather than trying to find real people. But there are different things that people are referring to when they're talking about synthetic audiences. One could be just a single persona that's made up with AI and using AI and giving it actual like data to draw from, but just using it as a single persona. There's a synthetic consumer, and that's really based on data from previous purchasing behaviors. There's synthetic audiences, which is like a full population, so a really big sample of synthetic AI generated people, which they're testing it on. There's a synthetic respondent. So it's an LLM that sort of mimics survey responses based on previous responses, and then synthetic data. So actually using AI generated data it originates in real data, but it just is another way to test audiences and conduct research. So it's really, there's so many different terms and discussions going on around this particular topic, but really the synthetic as a full population or a segment of that population based on previous data. However, we cannot 100% rely on, surprise, on a synthetic audience because there's been studies to show that, yeah, they're not overly reliable. So there was one study to show that they used ChatGPT 5.2 and created a synthetic audience using that to estimate of the brand Apple as innovative. But the GPT estimate said 65% of the sample size said it was innovative, whereas actually in real life, 29% of the people said yes. So 29, so it was nearly like a half had agreed that was the case. So that's a very different result from a synthetic audience to actual real audience. And in terms of the market, so there's different types. So there's purely synthetic. These are the companies that are doing that sort of stuff. There's a synthetic and then with a human panel. So there's comparing and seeing what it comes back as. And then it's also AI enhanced and traditional. So there's different ways to approach it. And why am I telling you this? But because today we're going to create an AI persona, a synthetic persona based on one of my clients and what they're trying to achieve with their target audience. They're going to actually try for a new target audience. So the brief is, so my client runs spiritual retreats and her name is Natalie McIver, the vibrational healer. Now, she's trying to drive bookings for her upcoming retreats, but is now going to try. Before, she was very broad with the ages and demographics, but now she's going to go for more of a market, and she generally has women at her retreats. And so go for like more mature women and really talk to them. But we need to know more about them to be able to do that well. And then we're going to use an Instagram reel as an ad to try and do that. So there's two things that are unknown at the moment. One is the audience, and then also we can use AI to find out what are the best characteristics of the best performing reels. Then we can actually create something that is based on research and then test it with the target that we've created using AI, and then to see how well we can get it matching their needs and their preferences before we actually send it out into the world. It means that we can be much more informed around the way that we do things. So the way that we're going to do it is, first of all, we will use an AI agent to research the audience and then create the synthetic persona with that. Then we'll do deep research on top performing reels, and then we'll get that to then create a storyboard and a master caption, which will then, based on that research, which will then test back against what the audience persona of that particular target audience would possibly like, and then just see what the outcome is. So this will be, I've done this sort of stuff before, but we'll definitely give it a go in this session and see how well it goes. So we're doing live things here. Now, generally, the prompt for this is quite simple because we want it to go out and find the information for us. So I've prompted it to say the research women in the baby boomer category within Australia the most likely to have the time and the funds and desire to attend a retreat to release past trauma in a nurturing environment. Now, I would use that if we go to ChatGPT, new chat. So I would use that prompt using agent mode. So it will go off and do that. And when you run these things, it takes about 10 minutes to really go and find that information. Because we're not going to wait for that, I have prepared one earlier. I feel like I'm on a cooking show. This is what it actually came back with in the end. So it took a little bit of time, but it came back and it had the age range there, the population size, time, health and well-being considerations. And the beauty of it is it's got all of these actual sources, and they're credible sources as well. Trauma and PTSD prevalence, financial capacity and spending priorities, this profile of what this group is about and who would be most likely to want to go to a retreat like this. So very detailed stuff. What I've done is I've downloaded this report, and it's when we get to the point in this where we'll create the persona, it's there and I'll upload it. So we'll get to that in a second. We researched the agent and it came back with, then we'll build the persona. So what I've got for this persona is that we'll use Claude to create it. And I've got a range of things to give it to learn more. So first of all, we've got the research that we just did with the agent. Then there are testimonial transcripts. Natalie has been gathering video testimonials from clients after all of her retreats. So what I did is I put that into a called Descript and got the transcripts, and only used the testimonials from that particular target market, and then put all the transcripts from those testimonials into one document. It's just their words and what they're saying, so you can get a real feel for the audience. So that's a document that I've put in as well. And then there's some other documents too, which I'll show you in a second. So what we're going to do now is go to Claude, and in Claude, we're going to create a project. And this project will be, let me see, we'll just call it Wellness Retreats for Mature Women. And press. Now in here you have instructions. So what I've done is I've prepared another prompt ready for this to put it in there. So basically in a project, it's like a custom GPT. So in there, what you can do is give it like a master prompt of what you're hoping to. Then you can load it up on relevant documents. So then it can use those documents and analyze those documents and then provide and create things based on its analysis of those. Going out to the web, you've actually got your documents for it. It's just super helpful. So for this, the prompt is that you are working inside a project dedicated to building and querying single AI customer persona for this retreat. So it's talked about the files that I'm going to give to it. So it's got a demographic profile report, psychographic report, some customer testimonials, and also a transcript from Natalie herself talking about her practice. When I have a client, I interview and then I ask them about their customers, their goals, like all the things that they do, because then it's in their words and it's not me having to go back and remember things and interpret it. I get the transcript and I put that into the AI, and that then it's trained directly on information coming directly from my client. So that's what I've done there. Then it gives it advice on what to think about for what we're trying to achieve here. So now, and you see here, I even told it English spelling, no em dashes. That's what I always do. So we've got this, we'll copy this one, and then we'll pop it into Claude in the area. So we'll click that up, put that in, and then that's there. Now, the beauty with Claude is that you can put so many different files in there. It can take so much information that's your own. And so we'll put it in here. So I've created a little folder here of items. So we've got here, that's Natalie's interview. We'll put that in. We've got the audience report, put that in there. We've got What else have we got here? So we've got audience report, we've got the transcripts, and I think top reels, we'll do that in a minute. Top reels in wellness, research wellness retreat reels. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay. So what I might do is just change this because it said 3 files, but it's actually got 5 files, so it's actually got 3. So let's just make sure that's correct. So that's all in there. And you can see there, it's got those pretty solid documents in there, but it's only taken up 1% capacity. So there is so much you can put in there. And I love doing interviews and transcripts. I find those really the most effective. So with that, we'll go back now to this. So we've got the testimonial transcripts. We've built that. And so now moving forward, what's even better is because even in an audience segment, there are even smaller segments as well. So the more niche you go, the more accurate you're going to get in reaching those and getting. But for this, we'll just keep it as one. So we'll keep going. Then I did deep research. So what I did, the prompt I used were what are the characteristics of the top performing reels that perform in the Australian wellness retreat niche? And so I used that. And again, I used ChatGPT and I used the deep research function to come back report. And so it did an analysis of, because you don't either, you want new information. So it was from 2024, 2026, and it covered all of those different things and those tips. It looked at all the different things I asked it to put together into a report. And so what the beauty of it is, then I can get that report and then put it into the AI, and then it knows then what those characteristics are. So when I'm working with it to try and come up with something, it will just automatically do what is working. So we got the report. And so now what we'll do is we'll go back in and give it another prompt. So this one is just reminding it who it is in terms of the persona, and then we'll move on to actually building and creating the real stuff. So in this prompt, it's quite long because it's AI who it is in terms of the target audience. It's going to actually give someone who's got a name and all the sort of demographic details that you need to be a person and psychographic. So let's put this in and we'll actually build this person. We'll give it its first prompt. So it takes some time to get these sort of background pieces of information to build this. But then once it's set up, you can use it all the time. I do this with my clients where we have audience personas for them. And I also include like the social media strategy and SEO and all those sorts of things, just so that's all feeding into it as well. So then it's using the AI to create content that's already keeping in mind those strategic documents that we already have as well. So it's just taking a little bit of time. It's constructing it. While it's doing that, let's move back. So the next stage is, so we've got the Reels report, which we'll add in a minute. And then we want it to create like a storyboard based on the target audience, based on the best performing reel characteristics, come up with, will align with that particular target audience. So Claude is still checking through everything, but the beauty of it is as well is that it's taking its time and it's actually reviewing those documents, saying, before I need this, I need to flag, you've described 5 files. So it picked up on that. So I'll just say there are actually 3 files. I knew it would pick up on that. But here's the testimonial. So here's the persona. So Robin Whitfield is her name, age 64, lives in Mullaney, moved 8 years ago, lives alone in a 3-bedroom Queenslander. She's divorced, not actively looking for another partner, has adult children and grandchildren. She used to be a primary school teacher. Income, core values, start to really get a feel for who she is as a person. And we could even go one step further if we wanted to and actually get to create an image of, so we could even see her in our mind. And you can see here, it's really done that background story on who this person is. about her fears and herself and what she listens to. It's very thorough, and how she makes decisions as well, which really helps with that customer journey. So now we have her, or still going. It's so detailed. There we go. I'll just say there are actually only 3 files. So what we'll do now is we will put the next prompt in, which is about creating the reel. So the reel storyboard and the caption. So this one is saying, because I'm going to upload the report on the best performing reels, and it's referring to persona we've already built. Create one Instagram reel concept that promotes, and we'll put Natalie's name. I might put it in there now. Upcoming retreat. And so it's saying here exactly what we want it to do. So let's pop it in and see what comes. So with that, we'll give it characteristics of the top performing reels in the Australian wellness retreat niche. So we've given it that. I'll say, please analyze the prompt attached and action it. Just taking a second, upload the report. Gee, it must be big. So, there we go. All right. So we've got the report, we've got the prompt. Let's see what happens. So it'll take a little while to think. So while it's doing it, let's come back. So we're at this point now where it's actually what to do. Once it's done that, we're going to ask it some questions. Things like, would you stop scrolling to look at this reel? Would you save this? What feels off? Still going, but it's referring to Robin, as you can see. So once we'll keep moving while it's going, and we'll come back at the end to see what it does and then test it out. So from what I've shown you today, we've created a survey in a few minutes, which was helpful. And there's other ways to actually analyze that data using something like Claude. It can actually build these amazing interactive dashboards where you can look at the different angles of that data, which is really cool. And you just need an easy prompt to do that and give it the data file, of course, making sure no private information in there. So we've done research reports to then build a project, be an AI persona, that sort of singular synthetic audience. And then we use deep research to go off and find just information that we're doing things in the best way. We're creating social media content, for example, that is based on what the top performing pieces of content do rather than just guessing. And then we are getting that information to create something for that particular audience. Here we go. So now we've got the storyboard. So it's done the shots, but what I want to do is actually give me a prompt to create this storyboard. Oh, it's still going. The other thing is, it's again so comprehensive, but I want it to give me a visual so I can see it. But the shots are, so it cuts to Natalie on the veranda, mid shot, soft natural light. And then it says, most women who find me are in their 60s and have had enough. And then it cuts to close on 2 older women. One is writing on a piece of paper. The other is folding hers. Outdoor on the table, there's a large frame. And Natalie says, we write it down, what we're done carrying, we burn it. No one reads it aloud. And so this is coming from the interviews with her. The next shot is slow held pan across the venue, real bedroom with door open, a made bed, kettle, window. But I want to actually see it. But you can see, as I've looked at the testimonial transcripts, like it's coming directly from that as well. And the reason it's done is actually at the end here. So it's talking shot by shot why it did that. Oh, and it's already asked. So it's already asked whether Robin would react. So would I stop scrolling? Yes. 2 things stopped me. The first is silence. So there was no music. And would I save this? Yes. What feels off? So again, being the critique, the woman on the veranda step holding a mug, looking out at the bush, that's exactly the wellness tired woman composition I've seen 100 times. And so again, talking about what would be better there. So what I'm going to do now is actually create a visual with Robin's changes included. So it's now doing that. And if you haven't, was doing shot by shot now. Okay. So let me put this prompt in. New artifact. Okay. Documents, templates, apps and websites. Let's put it in. Analyze prompt and action it. We'll see what happens. While it's doing that, let's keep moving. So I'd be interested to see if anything that you will play with out of the different things that I showed you today. Is there, what was the probably most useful for you? Was it the survey building? Was it the doing that audience research, audience analysis? Was it the running the research on the best performing content to make sure that you're doing stuff that's aligned with that? What's something that really stood out to you, something that you could use? I like the fact that you can test things against, once you've got this audience set up now, you can actually test your persona set up. You can keep testing to see if it's actually going to work for that. And what I liked about Claude in this instance is that it said, it didn't say, oh, that was wonderful. Yes, it actually went shot by shot to say, no, why I wouldn't use it. But we always must remember too that, as I said previously, AI can be very helpful, but we still need to drive it. Any decisions need to come from you. We need to think about cultural nuance as well, because many times if like different cultures aren't reflected in the testimonials, it will just veer to that. And so we've got to make sure that we're giving it a whole range of people from that particular target audience as well. And AI can be helpful to save us time, but again, yeah, it always has to end with us. Let's just check. It's still going. It's building something though. So if you want to do anything else with me, I've got an AI integration for communication leaders sprint coming up on June 15. So I have to jump off here very soon because we've got the final live session for this run of the course, which has been really great. And in that, it's 3 weeks, and by the end, you'll have an AI strategy for your organization. Does anyone have any questions while we're waiting for this thing to be built? It's powering along. Creating content, or when you're trying to learn more about a particular group of people, that's where it's really just really to make it more meaningful to you. It's sitting back and thinking, what do I wish I knew more about? And then using the tools to help you to do that research, or part of that research anyway. It just saves time in that respect. If there was a certain audience segment that you haven't gone after yet, it can be helpful to give you a better understanding of that group before you then start to say create content or do any sort of marketing for that group. The main thing I want you to take away are things like using agent mode in ChatGPT, if you're paying for it, will really help to increase what you get back. Also using the deep research function. Deep research is available now in ChatGPT, in Google Gemini, and that's just really a helpful way to go. Claude now also searches the internet, but I find, I don't have access. I can't use Claude Cowork or anything like that. So I'm just using Manus a lot in terms of the sort of AI agent stuff, which is helpful. But it just supercharges your searching. And what you can do is send it on a task and then just go off and do something else. And then when you come back, you've got a beautiful report there of information that you're looking for. It can do other things too. For example, it's very good at competitor analysis. So it doesn't even have to be learning a particular audience segment. It could be learning more about who your competitors are and what they do well, what they're not doing. So then it can come back with a comprehensive report around that, which is really good. So there's lots of different things that it can do to help you with your marketing and particularly market research. It's still building, but I might have a look at the caption it came up with, because we didn't have a look at that. Now, I think the caption for this is probably a bit long for a reel. The caption said, "You don't have another 40 years of this in you. You've done the books, you've done the breathing, you've done the years of holding everything together while the rest of your life ran past. The bit that didn't move with any of it is still sitting in your body somewhere. You probably already know roughly where. This is women who've done plenty of work and can feel where it stopped helping. Mothers, fathers, marriages that ended, a parent who's recently died, the things you'd half decided to alone. Natalie MacIver runs a four-day retreats for 6 women at a time on the Sunshine Coast hinterland. Shamanic practice, not talk therapy. The work goes through the body, private rooms, real food, no jobs to do. Most women leave saying they slept properly for the first time in months. That's something they'd been carrying actually shifted, that their intuition came back online. Next retreat, 6 places. There's a conversation with Natalie before you book because she wants to know who's coming and you'll want to know who you're sitting with for 4 days. I like part of that, but I think it's very long for a reel. But I can see how it's actually taken the information I've given it and really synthesized it into that. But it's definitely on the right track, I think, which is good. So it is still going. It's doing the text overlays and captions, finishing the production notes, which is at the very end. So you think it will be ready soon. When you're doing stuff like this, I highly recommend that you don't sit here and watch it. Like you go off and do something else and come back. What's really great about agents and things like this is that you can set it, as I said, set it task and set multiple tasks, and then you go off and do something else. Yeah, but you can see it's pulling it together. So then you can see frame by frame what it looks like. Just out of interest, I won't keep you, but I just wanted to put this into to Claude and see what it, not Claude, Manus, to see what it does. I can analyze the attached content. I need more context. Let's leave it for today. I think I've kept you enough with my little shenanigans, but yes, so that was the main aim of this, was just to show you different ways you can use the agent mode and the search, deep research and things like that for more than just creating content and things like that, actually doing that deeper analysis, building a customer persona. So then you can then test your messages. So you're more likely to create things that are going to resonate because there is so much content, particularly on social media, that you need to be able to cut through and reach the people that you're trying to connect with. But I'll leave it there. And thank you to both of you for coming along. I really appreciate it. And I will be back next month with another webinar. I'm not sure what the topic is yet, but I will definitely be promoting that and see you there. But thank you so much.